Welcome back. You're watching Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna. Two U.S. Navy sailors have been arrested on charges of handing over sensitive national security material to China. Jinchao Wei, a 22-year-old sailor assigned to the San Diego-based USS Essex, was arrested on Wednesday on a charge related to espionage involving conspiracy to send national defense information to Chinese officials. In a separate case, the Justice Department charged Wenheng Zhao, 26 years of age, for allegedly collecting bribes in exchange for giving sensitive U.S. military photos and videos to a Chinese intelligence officer. Matthew G. Olson, the Assistant Attorney General of the Justice Department's National Security Division, said these individuals stand accused of violating the commitments they made to protect the United States and betraying the public trust to the benefit of the People's Republic of China. Because of their actions, sensitive military information ended up in the hands of China. The information included details on wartime exercises, naval operations and critical technical material. The two sailors have been charged with similar crimes but in separate cases. It's not yet clear if the two are connected or if they were courted or paid by the same Chinese intelligence officer. U.S. officials say the cases exemplify China's brazenness in trying to obtain insight into U.S. military operations. Now, Jinchao Wei, a 22-year-old sailor assigned to the San Diego-based USS Essex, as we said, was arrested while boarding the ship. He's accused of passing detailed information on the weapon systems and aircraft aboard the Essex and other amphibious assault ships that act as small aircraft carriers. Prosecutors say Wei, who was born in China, was approached by a Chinese intelligence officer in February of 2022 while he was actually applying to become a naturalized U.S. citizen. And he allegedly admitted to that officer that he knew the arrangement could impact his application. Even so, at the officer's request, Wei provided photographs and videos of naval ships, including USS Essex, which can carry an array of helicopters, including the MV-22 Ospreys. The indictment alleges that Wei included at least 50 manuals containing technical and mechanical data about U.S. Navy ships, as well as details about the number and training of Marines during an upcoming exercise. Wei continued to send sensitive U.S. military information multiple times over the course of a year and was even congratulated by the Chinese officer once he became a U.S. citizen. Officials say Wei chose to turn his back on his newly adopted country for greed. The Justice Department charged Wei under a rarely used Espionage Act statute that makes it a crime to gather or deliver information to aid a foreign government. After pleading not guilty in San Diego, Wei was assigned a new public defender. Assistant U.S. Attorney Fred Shepard told the judge that Wei had passed information to Chinese intelligence as recently as 2 days before his arrest. He said Wei, who also went by the name Patrick Wei, told a fellow sailor in February last year that he was being recruited for what was quite obviously espionage. Shepard said Wei had made $10,000 to $15,000 in the past year from the arrangement with the unnamed Chinese intelligence officer. If convicted, he could face up to life in prison. The Chinese officer had instructed Wei not to discuss their relationship, share sensitive information, and to destroy evidence to help them cover their tracks. The Justice Department has also charged sailor Wenheng Zhao, based at Naval Base Ventura County, north of San Diego, while conspiring to collect nearly $15,000 in bribes from a Chinese intelligence officer in exchange for U.S. naval exercise plans, operational orders, and pictures and videos of electrical systems at Navy facilities between August 2021 through at least May 2023. This information included operational plans for a large-scale U.S. military exercise in the Indo-Pacific region, which detailed the location and timing of naval force movements. The indictment further alleges that Zhao photographed electrical diagrams and blueprints for a radar system stationed on a U.S. military base in Okinawa in Japan. Prosecutors say Zhao, who also went by the name of Thomas Zhao, surreptitiously recorded information that he then handed over. If convicted, Zhao could face a maximum sentence of 12 years. 20 years, I beg your pardon, in federal prison. It's not clear if federal officials are looking at other U.S. sailors as part of this investigation. Now, U.S. Attorney Grossman said The charges reflect that China stands apart in terms of the threat that its government poses to the United States. China is unrivaled in its audacity and the range of its maligned efforts to subvert our laws. He added, the US will use every tool in our arsenal to counter this threat and to deter China and those who have violated the rule of law and threaten our national security. Now, last year, a Chinese couple were arrested and indicted in the US for allegedly plotting to set up an autonomous mini-state in the Marshall Islands in the Pacific. The US Justice Department stated that Carrie Yan and Gina Zhu were accused of money laundering and violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. US prosecutors alleged that the pair had posed as officers from a non-governmental organization in New York City and tried to persuade US lawmakers to set up a semi-autonomous region in the Marshall Islands. Carrie and Gina had allegedly tried to bribe Marshall Islands officials. As per the documents, around 2016 to 2018, this NGO also held a special consultative status with the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs. Starting in 2016, the Chinese couple met several officials in New York to set up, as we said, a semi-autonomous region similar to Hong Kong. Their bid to create an SAR on the Ranjolap Atoll, an area that was abandoned after testing of the US hydrogen bomb in the 1950s. Back then, FBI officers had stated there is no bigger multi-generational threat to the United States than China, which will stop at nothing to attack the United States in its strategic plan to become the world's sole superpower. Now, US-China ties have been quite tense for several years now over a range of national security and trade issues. The United States has repeatedly accused China of espionage and cyber attacks, a charge that Beijing has denied every single time. China has also declared that it too is under threat from spies, pointing a finger indirectly at the US. Now, earlier this year, a suspected Chinese spy balloon that flew over the United States was shot down by the Pentagon. According to US officials, it had used commercially available off-the-shelf technology that was American-made. The Biden administration tracked this balloon for 8 days as it traveled across Alaska, Canada and the continental United States, including over sensitive military sites, before it was downed by a fighter jet off the coast of South Carolina. The balloon incident further destabilized relations between the United States and China, the world's two largest economies, and led US Secretary of State Antony Blinken to postpone a planned trip to Beijing. China maintained that the balloon was a civilian airship that strayed off course while conducting meteorological research and that the US overreacted by shooting it down.
Today we are announcing charges in the Central and Southern Districts of California against 2 active duty members of the United States Navy. Through the alleged crimes committed by these defendants, sensitive military information ended up in the hands of the People's Republic of China.
This morning, prosecutors in my office unsealed an indictment charging Wenheng Zhao, a petty officer in the United States Navy, with transmitting sensitive U.S. military information to an intelligence officer with the People's Republic of China, and doing so in exchange for money. The 2-count indictment that we unsealed this morning charges Mr. Zhao with conspiring with the intelligence officer to provide this sensitive information, and also charges him with bribery, receiving bribes from the intelligence officer in exchange for the sensitive military information regarding the military's operations and infrastructure. Mr. Zhao was arrested yesterday, and we are currently seeking his continued federal detention.
Time for another break here on Global Lens, but don't go anywhere. We have more for you on the other side.
With all this gear, you must be wondering if I'm climbing a mountain. Well, let me give you a wider look of this place. This is Asia's largest mountain of shame.
A mountain of waste, almost the height of the Qutub Minar.
When you enter capital cities